Welcome to another episode of Anything But 9 to 5. I'm Emily Boss, and in today's episode I talked to Misty Kearsley about her independent business, Misty's Minis. We compare stories in regards to some of the negativity thrown at artists and how to overcome some of the ups and downs of running your own side business based on personal creations. I learned a lot as someone who has just started selling their art, and I hope you do too. It was a fun conversation, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am 29 years old, and so back in 2014, I started sculpting little miniature realistic food jewelry. I made kind of magnets, little accessories out of them. I had some friends suggest that maybe I start selling them at some local art shows. So I did, and I got a really awesome response from the city. I'm really lucky because we have a very vibrant art community in Hamilton, Ontario. So anywho, fast forward, I ended up starting selling on Etsy. I was doing a lot of larger shows and bigger events in the city, and I was selling it in consignment shops. I recently, as you know, just kind of ceased production for the time being, and I work full time at Starbucks as a shift supervisor.
One of my favorite jobs I've ever had is working at Starbucks. I'd go back there anytime. I love that place.
It is great.
It's people can say what they will about corporate America, but that company is pretty great. Except for you definitely drink the Kool-Aid when you start working there.
Do you ever? And by Kool-Aid, you need 5 lattes a day.
Yeah, exactly. I'm convinced there's something addictive in their lattes.
Oh, 100%.
All right, so why I wanted Misty on the show today is due to a post that she posted a couple of months ago. I think it was in about August. You posted on your social media in regards to ceasing her business for the time being because she found that she felt more passionate going to her regular 9-to-5 job than working on the side business. And that's sort of, I'm just starting to crochet stuff and sell it. So I really wanted to learn your perspective of it because I have had some ups and downs. Like I did a show in September. I sold 2 things, one thing to a friend. So it was really a bummer. So it was like, I can totally get why you put so much time into the things you make. And when they're not appreciated, it's so heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you expand on the post that you posted on Instagram and why you decided to sort of step away from creating for Misty Minis?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, honestly, I learned over the course of 4 years that running your own business is one thing, and then, running your own business where you sell your art is kind of a whole other ballpark because it's very emotional. I learned that you have to be able to separate, that sort of emotional attachment that you have to your work and to the work that you do because, you get people don't value what you do. It's not that they, I don't think that people are being intentionally vindictive, but they aren't there in the room with you, when you're, like you're crocheting, for example, or when I'm spending like 5 hours sculpting a project. I did really enjoy it to begin with. I honestly made so many friends in the city. It was awesome. I absolutely loved the experience. But I started getting poached by, some local consignment shops. And don't get me wrong, I have an absolutely incredible relationship with a couple of consignment shops in the city. They're absolutely lovely people. But I also found out that pretty much anybody can just open a consignment shop, and that when you are an independent business owner, and you're not making a whole lot of money, you don't have very much power. If you can't afford a lawyer, your hands are pretty much tied. Those contracts honestly mean nothing. They really
Oh, I
don't when
know.
you're working. Yeah, when you're working with like, smaller amounts of money, like we're talking, a few hundred, that's a big amount to someone who makes minimum wage for their full-time job, but you can't do anything, if somebody ends up, not honoring their side of the contract. And for myself, that's sort of what happened. Payments came late despite assurances that they would be in on time. The individual running the shop wasn't keeping track of my inventory.
Oh, man.
Yes, I started to lose my patience very quickly in the beginning. I stayed with this store for, I believe it was about 5 or 6 months. And this is actually how I ended up making many friends because I started reaching out to other makers who were positioned in the store. And I asked them, are you getting your payments on time? Are you getting your, invoices? Is your contract being honored? And I started to find out in this store that everybody was having the same experience. And that was very upsetting for me because when in a consignment shop, like everybody is pouring their heart into everything that they make.
Exactly.
And this,
And that's the thing, you're making inventory for a location where you think it's going to sell really well, and so you're assuming you're going to get this money back to you eventually, and you're relying on those funds to maybe actually start saving for things or build more inventory, and that's heartbreaking that they weren't paying you.
oh no, definitely. It honestly, it came to a head shortly after I asked to have my agreement canceled. There ended up being a dispute because a custom order was taken without my permission, and it was a pretty significant amount of money. Um, and back when when this whole event happened, this was about 2 years ago. So I was pretty fresh into, selling items to the general public. I didn't have experience really working with consignment shops at the time. What ended up happening really with me, I was working at McDonald's and I was making minimum wage. And honestly, anybody who's worked there knows that you go in, you are worked to the bone every day. So when I had, when the dispute came up with the consignment shop, they really minimized the amount of money that they owed me. And that was just heartbreaking and infuriating all at once. And when I tried to I tried to stand up for myself and for the value of my craft, um, I was threatened with I was threatened with lawsuits. I was threatened with slander.
Oh no.
It was honestly, Emily, it was crazy. I had this lady calling my personal cell phone. I had her sending her family members after me. I had
Oh my
random
goodness.
women messaging me on Instagram. Yeah, I had somebody tell me that I should be ashamed of myself, that I am
Oh man.
selfish, and I couldn't believe it, It was
That's
horrible.
that's awful. I'm part of a number of different crochet groups, and a lot of people vent all the time about just the negativity towards makers. Like, you have no idea how much time and heart and soul we put into our creative work, and then you have someone's like, "Well, I could buy that for $5 at Walmart." It's like, fine,
Yes.
go and buy it at Walmart. That's fine. If that's what you want, go ahead. But this one has love. This one is made out of better quality items, and this one is supporting a person that you can see right in front of you. Instead of
Absolutely.
instead of supporting, like a multinational company where if someone stole that toque, it wouldn't even affect their bottom line. So it's so heartbreaking when people are so belittling to artists. It breaks my heart.
Oh, absolutely. And that was really a well, it wasn't a big deciding factor for me, obviously, because it happened two
Hmm.
years ago. But over time, like the lack of awareness and sort of the ignorance surrounding all of my efforts started to kind of wear on me. And that's what I mean. Like, it is a very emotional sort of thing that you have to be able to overcome that kind of judgment and those comments that people make. I had parents again who, they're not meaning to insult me. I had parents at shows whose kids wanted my jewelry and they'd say, "Oh no, we can get something like that at the dollar store." Um,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, and some shows, you're there for, oh my goodness, like 10, 12 hours in the beating sun. You've been there all day long. You've had no sleep and you have to smile through all of these comments.
Yeah, it's
For the
like,
first
oh,
time
aren't
in
they
my life.
cute?
Right? Yeah, lovely kids. Like, put your jewelry in your mouth, or put my jewelry in your mouth.
Oh no.
Great. Yeah, honestly, yeah. And what I found, like circling back to Starbucks, I got hired there about a year ago, and for the first time in my life, despite it being an entry level job, I love it so much. Um, they're an excellent company, I feel like I'm taken care of and that I am appreciated.
Hmm.
And I like being held accountable to them because I like representing their brand. I totally sound like I've drank the Kool-Aid, right?
No, I've felt the same way. I've worked at a few different locations, and in between any job that I had working in television broadcasting, I worked at Starbucks, and yeah, I don't know. It's a great company to work for. The worst thing about that job are the snooty customers that you get
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's
Like,
true.
your
It's
coworkers
true.
are
And
amazing. Like, one of my best friends is someone I met when I was working at Starbucks. Like, it's one of the best places to work. And yeah, the worst thing, as in most jobs, it's the customers that suck. But I mean, but the ones that come in every single day and you get to know their beverages and you get to know their family, it's such a rewarding job. It's like I always say it's like dealing a legal drug because people are
Oh
so
yes,
thankful
I
when they
know.
get their coffee in the morning.
They really are. Like I mean, it's gotten to the point where like oh, it's so heartwarming. I had a lady. She's actually relatively new to the country. Like, she moved here from England. She's with her husband, but she doesn't really have a lot of friends here in the country. And she had a problem and she was really upset and wanted to talk to someone. She specifically came to Starbucks to come see me to get a cappuccino and chat with me and get let off some steam. And I realized that we really impact people, and I love that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
and
really it's like a community.
Absolutely. And like I started to realize that something was wrong when I was more excited to go to a closing shift at Starbucks than I was to do a large order of miniatures. I work completely alone, in my own house. I can
Hmm.
eat and do whatever I want while I'm working. I can listen to music and relax, but the joy had been drained from it for me, which is really upsetting actually.
Yeah, I for a little bit there I was starting to lose my love of crocheting. And I'm back on the horse again, but it's really hard when
God
you're
bless
not
it.
when you don't feel appreciated for things that you put all of yourself into, and
Yeah,
just handing someone a cup of coffee, you get more reward for doing that instead.
absolutely. And like not only that, I lost all of my spare time. All of my personal life is dedicated to Misty's minis. Um, like I would come home, make myself dinner, and then spend another 6 hours after working an 8.5 hour shift. I'd sit there for 6 hours in my craft room sculpting all night long.
Yeah, I
And
I
then
know the
it's getting
pain.
hard. It's getting to the point where I couldn't even go on dates with people because I'm just always busy. That sucks. That is one of the worst parts about it, honestly. There's just some like I also like it's a being entry level job and everything. I work a varied schedule, so I don't get multiple days off. I get one day off, like a few days apart. And when you have like a big order and you come home, like you literally have zero time to relax.
Oh, I know. I've decided if I ever do go on Etsy, it's going to be pre-made stuff only. I only take like
Yes.
special orders from people I know because I trust that they're gonna love it, and
Yes.
and I know they're gonna like appreciate it. But I mean, when you are worried about like how much time you're gonna have to put into a project, and people don't understand, like when you work an 8-hour shift and you come home and you obviously have to eat or you have to go grocery shopping or do any other errands, and you're still sitting down to work on this thing for someone that might not even be appreciated, it's so disheartening.
It really is. Oh my goodness. Like Etsy grew to become my personal nightmare after a little while.
Oh
Like
no.
I can give you a very small example. I had one order, and like, I don't. Here's my thing, and people have told me many times that I don't charge enough for my art, but I don't. I'm not. I'm the type of person where I don't have a lot of money, and I want people who don't have a lot of money to also be able to enjoy my art. I don't want somebody to look at my awesome pizza necklace and think, "Oh my God, it's like $60. I can never gonna buy that."
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Um, right? I want it to be, affordable and attainable to everybody and to people who make minimum wage like myself. Uh, but there draws a line, obviously, where I'm not making any money on what I'm making. I had a gentleman order a set of pancakes for his wife. Really, really sweet gift idea. I thought it was really cute because that's her, her favorite breakfast food. And he didn't really specify, that he wanted extra syrup or extra butter or anything like that. He just said pancakes with syrup and butter. So,
Mm-hmm.
I sculpted them. It took me I charged him $35, and it took me about just a little over 3 hours in total to sculpt the pancakes, bake them, paint them, and put them on the jewelry. Um, so I sent him a photo of the custom item, and when he saw it, he said, "Oh, this is great. This is great. But could you possibly, maybe add more syrup?" I can't just add more syrup once it's been painted and sealed. Like I have to start over again.
Oh.
And I should. have a policy, where I'm getting people to pay for remakes. But at the time, I didn't. I felt like if I asked for more money, people aren't going to want to pay it. That was kind of my fear. So I resculpted for this guy, and then he wanted it sculpted again, 3 times.
Oh
So I
no.
sculpted that man 3 sets of pancakes, Emily, for $35. I
Oh
was
no.
relieved. I just kind of said to my friends, I was like, you know what? Sometimes you gotta like it's the cost of doing business. Sometimes you lose a little bit of profit. Like I've taken a hit like that, but those kind of orders drive me absolutely mental. Like I've had people who bought my jewelry back in 2014 say the clasp on my necklace broke. Can I have a refund?
Oh my
Like you've owned that.
goodness.
Are you serious? You've owned that necklace for 4 years and you actually think oh my God.
Like go and get a cheap necklace at the dollar store and just take the chain out of it.
Oh
Like
yeah. And I even had one person who mentioned that like they had a grilled cheese necklace and they bought it when I first opened my business. Now my jewelry is very durable, but it is not indestructible. They're sculptures. Like they're
exactly.
tiny, delicate, like they're hyper realistic. You've seen them, obviously.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I just so everyone knows, I've bought Misty's items before. And actually you were very generous
yes.
because I bought onion rings from you
Oh
and
my God,
they were the wrong size when I got them and you made me new ones for free. And I felt
I
so bad.
remember.
I was like, "Oh, I can pay for those." And you were like, "No, no, it's the wrong size. It's fine." And I was like, "Okay." But yeah, I've bought quite a few of I've bought some of the little candy necklaces that the all day sucker one. I have that one and like the little old timey candy stick. I have that necklace too.
Oh, those are one of my favorites. Honestly, you are one of my very first supporters. I remember I was very excited about that onion ring order.
Oh, I love them
'Cause it
so
was
much.
I was so flattered that a total stranger was trusting me with money. I was like, oh my goodness, this girl's amazing. I was very excited. So thank you. You kind of like you opened that door and you were a total peach to deal with. So those kind of experiences are great. Most people are awesome, but you get like that occasional crappy one where you're like rethinking your entire purpose.
Oh yeah, I've seen I've heard some nightmare stories, and in the different craft groups I'm in, there'll be people who are like, was requested to make this big giant blanket for this person, and they want their child's name on it, and then they disappeared, and now they're not paying me for this giant blanket. I was like, it's like,
Yeah, that's
and I just want everyone to know that I just did the math on how much Misty got charged for those those pancake earrings. If you were getting paid, because it's 9 hours, you would have been getting $3.89 an hour for that one pair of.
and some people will argue and say, well, that's worth it. You're working for yourself. You're working from home. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I can't make rent on like 3 pairs of earrings. Sorry, not as long as people keep fighting me for how much I'm charging for them.
These days, you could barely even pay for a meal at that rate.
Oh, I know. When I did my first craft show, it's very disheartening. So in that sense, now that we got the negative Nancy stuff out of the way,
Yeah,
do
of
you think
course.
you're going to relaunch Misty Minis eventually, or do more craft shows, or are you just going to keep it small for now?
I think for now, I'm going to keep it small, but I've considered reopening it because now that I'm not doing it, I don't really do, I have so much spare time and I'm like, what is this? Time to do things. I am still doing so. I agreed to stick with Studio 205 in Hamilton. It's like, they're awesome. I've been with them for a little while. Have a great relationship with them, and a lot of people in the city really flock to that store when they're looking for my jewelry. So I figured, you know what, I can keep kind of sending it out there. And so I'm also doing some wholesale orders as well, and little personal stuff for friends, like you said, for people that I know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm thinking maybe if I do relaunch, it'd probably be next year or sometime beyond that. Give myself some time to relax for the Christmas season.
Yeah, take the time to relax. I'm already not. I've basically told people I'm not taking any more orders because I only have about 5 things to make, but with craft shows and stuff, it's just I'm an idiot. I just decided to start making stock in like June, so I just sort of overwhelm myself. That's
hmm
partially I'm to blame for that, but I mean, just it's hard for me to charge for my time because it's like, how much is this really worth to
Yeah,
someone
and
else? It's so hard.
you can't even help but have to take into consideration how much its standard retail value is. Like I knit, so I feel you, right? Like I love to knit,
Mhm.
and I actually like that's my hobby that I don't make money on. Um, and like, oh my goodness, like on an infinity scarf, I made one for my friend's mom, and he asked me how much to charge. I'm like, I worked on that for like 6 days. I can't exactly charge you like $200 for a scarf.
Yeah,
I
I know
also pay like
exactly.
$50 for the wool. Like it's so hard to charge for it. And it's like, okay, well, if I charge too much, they're gonna go elsewhere. But if I don't charge enough, I'm ripping myself off.
I know it's a really it's a huge Sophie's choice when it comes to how much to charge for things because it's like, yeah, it did take me 5 days to make that, but I was also watching Netflix the entire time. I feel like putting on tags the shows and movies I watch when I'm making things for people.
Too. Yeah, right.
Because it's like, this is what I was watching half-heartedly while I was making this for you.
I don't know how people did it before the age of Netflix. This it gets me through. Keeps me sane when I'm doing this stuff.
Oh yeah, Netflix and podcasts are how it keeps me going, man.
Right? You just leave them going. They just play the next episode for you. You don't even have to touch anything. You just keep your hands on your knitting needles.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's so brilliant. Netflix is
Yeah.
one of the greatest inventions.
I think most of us can agree with that.
Oh, 100%. So that being said, are you going to be doing any craft shows? Have you completely closed your Etsy store down and everything?
Yes, I have. It's in vacation mode for the moment, just so that any people who placed orders in September can contact me if they need to. But yes, the Etsy store is going down completely. I think if I reopen, I'm not even going to reopen on Etsy. I'm just going to actually launch my own website, so I'm not paying fees to Etsy.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about doing as well because I had to start a website for this podcast anyway, and there's a store
Mhm.
option, so I might just start shoving stuff on there because the craft show thing just people can keep their comments to themselves. Anyone out there who goes to a craft show, keep your negative Nancy comments to yourself.
Yes, like
I
be mindful that the person has feelings. Like,
yeah, I made all the stuff on the table. It's not like walked in from another country. I've made it. So stop saying
no,
horrible
these
things
are my
about
woolen children.
stuff. Exactly. My soul has been crocheted into these items.
Exactly. My literal sweat. Like I washed them, but literally went
I
into
know
them.
exactly. Some tears have also
Oh yeah, big time. Big time.
Yeah, so everyone out there, just be mindful when you go to a craft show to respect the artists that are there, even if you feel that it's really expensive. Like I went to a wool festival this morning in Woodstock, and there was a woman who she made these amazing things. They're like little scenes, but they were put inside old like crystal. So I think it was like an old like cigarette holder or something, and she made
Oh,
this thing
cool.
a felted tree, and
Oh
in the
my God.
tree there was like little tiny apples. It was all 100% felted. It was just gorgeous.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
I know, and everyone's like, oh, $125. Like, are you kidding me? Probably took her hours.
Yeah. It's just so easy when everything's instant for people to say that, you know?
I know,
I
but
think
you
that's what
won't
it is.
find anything like that on like AliExpress or on Amazon or
Never.
anything. So
Not at all. No.
yeah, it's hard. Well, Misty, thank you so much for taking the time to give a different perspective of what can happen when you're a creator because it's hard when you are an artist and you want to share your art with other people. It really you have to build a thick skin for sure.
Definitely.
So we'll be putting the link to your Instagram where anyone who's interested can view any of your art. Now, if anyone wants to order anything, can they just directly message you on Instagram?
Yes, I would request that nobody directs any custom orders to me. If they see something on my feed that they like, I can make that specific item, something that's already been made, but I don't want to make custom orders.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Yes. That is my message to everyone.
Please note that even if you do want a custom order from any artist, keep in mind that it's going to take a lot longer than just a regular item. Because when someone orders like something that you've made a million times, it's so much easier and quicker, and you know the process off by heart.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Misty, thank you so much for taking the time on your Saturday to talk with us. And is there anything else you'd like to say to our audience about being a crafter or your experience?
Honestly, make sure that you value yourself, value your time. Don't sell yourself short. That's really all I can say.
Yeah,
Don't do what I did.
I think that's perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me, Emily. I appreciate it.
Thank you again to Misty Kearsley for being a guest on the show. If you wish to learn more about Misty's creations, please go to our website, www.anythingbut925.com, 9 to 5 as numbers, and click on the affiliate links page. There you will find information regarding our guests that have been on our show, along with their websites and social media. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube via @anythingbut925. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show so we know that you're listening and to keep creating more episodes. If you are interested in being a guest on the podcast or you would like to recommend someone to be a guest, please email us anythingbut925@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. I hope you're all doing something you love. Goodbye.